Since its launch in 1861, only misery followed the ship, as fires, collision, and death followed in its wake. The last sighting of the Mary Celeste was a month ago, before it set off to Genoa, but the ship and its cargo never made it to port, vanishing without a trace. Out on the horizon, a ship drew near, the waves battering the ship as it swayed. Captain Morehouse drew his telescope, peering over at the ship in his drunken stupor. Something was amiss. Ordering a signal to be raised, there came no answer. As they grew near, a cold chill running through their veins. There was no one at the wheel, no one on deck. In fact, no sign of life at all. Morehouse ordered an expedition. 3 men rowed over to the ship. Approaching, they shouted, but still no answer. Rowing to the stern of the ship, trying to identify the name. Shocked, they read the name, Mary Celeste. The Mary Celeste, previously known as the Amazon. The ship's timbers whined and creaked as it stood in the harbor, the tides crashing against its hull. Its then owner decided, "Begone with this old hunk of lumber," and sold it. As it was pulled into the warehouse to be fitted with new timbers, to make it seaworthy once again. And so it was reborn, a Mary Celeste. Seaworthy, the Mary Celeste stood in the harbor, the tides prancing playfully at its hull, awaiting its chance at open waters. Men walk to and from the ship as they make preparations for its voyage, loading the hull with a hefty cargo of alcohol, as well as provisions for the journey. Set to sail from New York to Genoa, Captain Benjamin ordered the crew to set the sails, untying the ship from the harbor as they make their way to open waters, sending it off into the Atlantic swell. The weather had been fair, the wind carrying the ship straight and true. The captain's wife, Sarah, spent most of her time working on her sewing machine, spending the evening playing on her melodeon, with their daughter, Sophia, playing at her feet. Passing another checkpoint, the weather suddenly changed for the worst, as rain started to pour down from the barren sky, while a moderate gale blew. Captain Benjamin ordered all but 2 sails to be furled. As they sailed on, there was no panic. The ship's log only recorded the barest facts. The ship sails on as a storm brews around us, all but 2 sails furled as we make our way towards our destination. It was the last entry ever made. 10 days after Captain Morehouse found the ghostly ship, their ship came alongside the Mary Celeste. First mate Oliver and John Wright climbed aboard, the floorboards creaking at the movement as they investigated the ghostly ship. What they saw only deepened the mystery. The rigging flapped loosely in the wind. The wheels spun unattended. Water splashed in and out of the galley door. A compass lay smashed on the floor, the glass shimmering in the dim light, as well as the ship's longboats, were missing. Below deck, everything seemed eerily ordinary, except there was no one on board, no sign of life. In the captain's cabin, the sewing machine stood unattended. Sheet music lying on the side. Little Sophia's toys were neatly stowed away. In the crew's quarters, their laundry still hung up to dry, their beds made, clothing lay in bulks to the side, folded and neat. The only sound to be heard was the crash of the waves against the hull as waves collided with the ship. In the galley, the still unserved breakfast was made, the eggs still in the pan, as fresh bread was sliced for breakfast. Only half of the food was served, still awaiting its chance to be devoured. Climbing back onto the longboats, the crew reported the ghostly experience to Captain Morehouse. Speculation soon spread through the ship as the crew voiced ideas of what might have transpired aboard the Mary Celeste. One suggested that the ship might have been abandoned in the storm. But why then? Was there an open and unspilled bottle of cough medicine on the table? And the captain's belongings were still in his cabin? Had the ship been taking water? No, the water we found can easily be dispelled from the ship. Mutiny, perhaps? The captain shook his head. There was no sign of a struggle. Putting unanswered questions aside, they have more important things to worry about. Ordering some of his crew to repair the damaged mast and pump out the water from below deck, sending 3 of his 7 crew members to sail the Mary Celeste back to where they were expected to port. After the long voyage, they secured the 2 ships to the port. The British authorities impounded the Mary Celeste, ordering an investigation of the matter. Many speculations were made, but none explained the state that the ship was founded in. Did the captain panic in a storm and launch the boats? Could the crew have gone on a drunken rampage? The cargo was searched. Still, it was sealed and untouched. No sign of a panic or a struggle on deck. The captain's cabin was still as it was left. The crew's breakfast table set and untouched, the eggs still on the plate, the cutlery still beside them. But the most asked question, how did the ship still remain on course for the time that it did? Was there one last person on deck? And if so, where are they now? The authorities were certain that the crew and Captain Benjamin would appear and tell their tale of what might have transpired, but they never did. The Court of Inquiry awarded an ungenerous amount of £1,700 salvage money to Morehouse and his men, which is 15% of the value of the ship's cargo. Investigation was closed, but speculation raged on. Had they died of yellow fever? Had the captain gone mad? Pulled into the depths of the sea by a giant squid? The answer may never come to light. And so, the mystery of the crew of Mary Celeste rages on. The Mary Celeste was released and sold off, changing hands from many an owner, for no crew would work on the ghostly ship. "It be cursed!" they would shout, The ship would be followed with misfortune, from death to fire, collision and bankruptcy followed in its wake. The ship's end came as it crashed against a coral reef where it sank to the seabed. Meanwhile, the old wooden hull of the Mary Celeste rotted away unseen on a remote Caribbean reef.